Welcome to Season 3, Episode 8 of the Professional Evil Perspective. I'm Kevin Johnson.
And I'm Nathan Sweaney.
And we're going to delight your ears, and if you're watching on YouTube, your eyes. Okay, we're not going to delight your eyes. With amazing information about artificial intelligence. We've jumped on the bandwagon. We're going to discuss it.
Everybody's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it.
So did you watch the Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO guy, his testimony before Congress?
I did not watch all of it. I've watched clips. I personally have decided that Congress is just sound bites, so I might as well just listen to sound bites.
I hate Twitter. I totally hate Twitter. I watched the whole thing, and I was really impressed. I thought it was good. I also watched... what's the Google guy? Sundar? I never know how to say his last name.
I never know anybody's names.
Yeah. Like when he testified, Jack Dorsey, Zuckerberg. Dude, Zuckerberg's was so freaking long. They grilled that guy. I enjoy watching those, and I'm always amazed because you see all the tweets from the media sources, and then everybody retweets their favorite media source, and they'll say one thing or the other, and then you watch the actual thing, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not how that went. Like that was that was a 6-second segment of the whole thing. This is why
I'm saying it's all sound bites. I like you. I enjoy watching them as well. I am. If I was a cable subscriber, which I'm not, I would totally be a C-SPAN addict.
C-SPAN's on YouTube, right?
No, like they live stream it on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they live stream everything, but everything I've ever wanted to watch, I've been able to watch on YouTube.
Oh yeah, so I've watched certain things. I didn't realize I could just watch. Oh man, I need to go look. I don't know why I never thought about it.
Now you're making me wonder. Like every time I've ever been like, hey, I want to watch this testimony or whatever. Now there are some things that Congress doesn't record. There are some things they don't allow. Yeah. But
that's the same with any court or legal system, right? That some things are public and.
In fact, there was a recent thing, I think just within the last month or two, where C-SPAN was asked. So Congress has a camera or a system of cameras, and they basically provide the feed to C-SPAN, and they say, this is what you get. And C-SPAN recently said, hey, we would really like to bring in more camera people and do a more professional job so people actually want to watch this. Yeah. And I don't know what happened with that, but anyway, we're chasing rabbits.
But so I agree with you, is that if all you're getting it through is Twitter, you're going to miss stuff, and there is context. I find I follow a few people on Twitter that tend to be reasonably biased.
Yeah.
Right? Like anybody who says they're unbiased, they're full of it, right?
Yeah. You got to find people that know their bias. Yeah, like they understand what their bias is and can acknowledge that.
Yeah, well, like me, and I'm not saying that I know all my biases, but I know for a fact that I don't care how much I agree with you. If what you're doing is violating the First Amendment or even comes close to violating the First Amendment, I'm going to be against it, right? Like period. That's done. I get angry about First Amendment stuff, but I know that. And so when I look at things, I will not claim that I'm successful. I try to at least recognize that I'm reacting that way because of that thing. Right?
Yeah.
So I follow a few people on Twitter that they tend to do a good job of showing it reasonably well. Right. So yeah, I just said to you right before we joined, I'm bothered that I don't remember who did it. I just saw somebody on Facebook that was like, why are we doing this again? Why are we falling for this again? And he outlined all of the CEOs that that are calling for regulation. I personally find that there are two cases that people call for regulation of their own stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, hold on before you go there. Let's clarify for those that haven't watched it or don't know what's going on. Basically, the CEO of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, testified before Congress, had this big thing, did a dinner the night before, like all this stuff, and basically said we need to be regulated. This industry is dangerous. it's going to cause problems. It's going to replace jobs. It's going to create new jobs. But there has to be some regulation, because if we just let it go, stuff's going to happen. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. And so that's where we sit. Okay, so your comment.
My opinion is there's two types of people that ask for regulation. And I think this one is the second group. The first group that asks for regulation of themselves, right? Not just general groups that say, hey, we should regulate this thing. Organizations, CEOs that come out and say, you should regulate the thing my company does. The first group are the ones that are way behind and don't know how they're going to possibly catch up.
Yeah. You need to regulate the people in the lead so we can catch up.
You see those guys beat me, the ones that are profiting that I can't regulate those guys.
Yeah.
The second group of CEOs that call for self-regulation. And I want to clarify again. I'm talking about if I went to Congress and said, you should regulate pen testing, right?
Yeah.
The second group are the ones who they're so far ahead of their competitors that they can afford the overhead that the regulation will cause.
Yeah.
I believe that Zuckerberg is a great example of that. We want to guide the regulation, and that's what I mean by afford, right?
Yeah.
They've got enough money to, when the NASCAR jumpers for the senators come out, the Facebook logo is right there on the shoulder, right?
Well, they know that regulation is going to happen anyway, and so they want to help guide it, right? They want to help be, put it in place. I'll suggest another group, and I kind of think, I see what you're saying, and I don't think anybody's necessarily in a specific group. I think they're probably in several, like in different parts of the different groups, right? But I think another consideration is, I just lost it. So with OpenAI, they're going to make money. They're going to be successful, right? Like AI, nobody questions that AI is going to transform things. So they're at a point where it's like, look, we're going to be successful no matter what you do. So let's regulate this. Like, why not? There's no reason. If you think back, the Zuckerberg one stands out. I mentioned before, Congress like grilled him. They were so harsh. And they were harsh to Google. They were harsh to Twitter, Jack Dorsey. Like they were mean. And you could tell the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, like the way they were grilling them, but they all grilled him. With Altman, they were like friendly. Like everybody was nice and lovey-dovey. And you would think that all of these guys, maybe they had already invested in OpenAI or something, but I bet they probably have. Let's not go down that political mess. But they were, the media is all talking about how he charmed Congress and, he's the Congress darling and all this. To me, that was weird. It was weird watching them just talk about how great he is. I don't think that's weird
at all. I think it's really simple. The paid for and bought Congress people know where their money is coming from.
Maybe. I don't know.
Wait, let me explain.
Yeah.
When Zuckerberg was there was a huge tidal wave of people who were complaining and organizing and this is bad. They're stealing our data. They're using it against us. There's a very negative overture. When Google was there and they were grilling Google, there was a huge, overwhelming, this is bad. We need to fix this. AI right now is still at the point where the majority of people out there like what they're seeing.
The
majority of the people out there, right? And so, I agree with you. He did not charm them. Their constituent, the people who pay their bills, like their trips and their boat trips and stuff like that.
I think he charmed them a little bit.
In my opinion, that's where you see the tenor of the question.
I can see that. That makes sense. He definitely was charming. Like watching him,
he did a good job.
He's a very compelling. I saw a YouTube video the other day. One of those like comedy sketches where two human players, were thrown into a game, and the female character like balanced all of her stats, right? She's got stuff in constitution and stuff in strength and whatnot. And the guy put like all 20 of his points into charisma. And it was all like, he's just going to charm everybody, right? That's kind of the way I felt watching this guy. Like he's there to charm people, and it worked, right? I guess maybe that's the job of the CEO. I don't know.
Well, so, if it is, I fail. Because I put no points.
No points in charisma.
Yeah. I here's what I think. We've talked about this before. The minute you tell me that you want to regulate something to make people safer, I want to know what your underlying motive is.
So you touched on something that's interesting, the idea of Congress regulating. And this is what I pulled out 3 quotes that blew me away because they were all from Democrats. The first one, because Democrats normally are pro-regulation, Republicans tend to be,
that's a good stereotype. Yes,
very generalized, but right. So Richard Blumenthal, I can't remember where he's from, Democrat. He said, for every success story in government regulation, you can think of 5 failures.
Yep.
Okay, that's fair. I totally agree with that. It's just weird coming out of a Democratic mouth. Dick Durbin said, when you look at the record of Congress of dealing with technology and innovation and rapid change, we're not designed for that.
Yep.
Okay. Can we apply that same statement to all the other times you were pro-regulation? And then Peter Welch, I think he's Vermont, which Democrat for Vermont is mostly Republican, right? Let's be honest. But he said, it's impossible for Congress to keep up with the speed of technology. And they were all challenging, like, okay, great, you're pro-regulation. We want regulation. Can we do this? And I guess that's the question I have is it even reasonable to try to regulate AI? Or are we at the same place where we were with, remember when encryption was regulated and you weren't allowed to export encryption algorithms because it was a weapon? Like, are we looking at the same type of thing?
Yes, we are.
Well, that was easy. That was our episode for today, guys. Wait.
Yep, done. Let's be clear. We still have Congress people that have their emails printed out for them and read through.
Oh gosh.
And I'm not right. That's a reality.
Yeah.
We still have Congress people who are having those read to them. We also are at a point, and this is where, I'm going to be rude or mean or whatever. We're at a point where we are still having Congress people that are making decisions so that they can have a soundbite for their next election.
Yeah.
Not for the betterment of their constituents.
Yeah.
And I don't care what side you fall on. This is not a red side, a blue side thing, right? I can give examples on both sides for the people who think that I'm siding with one or the other.
Oh no,
The reality is the only result that we're going to get from regulating AI is laws that are cumbersome, that don't take into account the actual speed. I don't remember which one of the 3 you gave said it, but they're right?
Yeah, they can't keep up.
They can't keep up. Hell, let's be clear. We can't keep up, right? In the show notes or whatever, the channel we were discussing this in advance, you made the comment, what about AI learning, LLMs learning on data that a corporation wouldn't typically go after.
Yeah.
And you gave the idea of DarkGPT or whatever it was called. I apologize. I don't remember.
Some stupid, like DarkBERT, I think was the name of it.
Yeah. With the idea of, hey, we're going to train it on dark web stuff. Well, right off the bat, corporations are doing that because, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean, right? Here's what's going to happen. LLMs, AI, machine learning, whatever you want to call it, is going to learn stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We can regulate it. So what happens when Congress says AI firms aren't allowed to train on private data? Because I can see that, right? This is one. We just saw that over in Europe where the guy is suing because his data is in the LLM and they're not taking it out and whatever, right? I don't remember if I talked about that on this podcast or the other podcast I'm on. But what happens when Congress says LLMs can't be trained on private data?
Yeah, it's exactly
Going to stop.
The article you were referring to. So basically, to me, this was some students doing, hey, we have to do an end of year, thesis paper. Let's prove something that's obvious that we already know, right? And so it's kind of a neat process what they went through. But what they said is like, hey, the dark web, all these people that exist on these forums and channels, like they have they basically have their own language that if you just jump into it, you won't understand, right? They have short names for things, acronyms, like all this stuff. And so the theory was, let's train an AI based on all that data, and let's let the AI search all of its information and then make sense of it. And the what they were able to prove was the AI does a much better job. And when we say AI, we're talking about a large language model. It does a much better job of understanding the nuance of that special language than humans do, right? When they're first thrown into it. And that, to me, duh, right? Like that makes sense. But I think where you're going with that and on the regulation, it reminds me of the article. It wasn't the blog post wasn't from a Google engineer, but it was an internal Google engineer's posting that got leaked and then posted publicly. And basically it said that, I think the title was, we have no moat and neither does anyone else, or something like that. And basically what he was saying, when they refer to a moat, it's the idea that, a moat is not so much today because we have planes, but back in the day when you had castles, the moat kept people out. It was an extra way of like ensuring your security because it kept anybody else from getting close to you. And so in the business terms, I don't remember who first used that, but in business terms, if you have a moat, it means that your way of doing business, your solutions and products and whatnot, you've got security to keep anybody else from catching up. Basically what Google is saying, we don't have a moat, neither does anybody else. Like, and then it quotes like several examples of open source products that are moving and escalating much more quickly than the corporate version of things. And to me, that's the issue, is anything government tries to regulate, I don't see how they enforce those regulations against the internet, against open source.
And we've seen that time and time again, right? Do you know what else is illegal? Downloading pirated movies.
Oh yeah, right. Which that's an interesting point. How did we? So there's been a little bit of a swing, but right, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, how did we lower the amount of movies that were downloaded?
We made movies available to people.
Yeah, right. We gave people legal options that were reasonably priced and easier, more user friendly than going and downloading something off the Pirate Bay or whatever your favorite torrent site is. But now we're kind of swinging back the other direction, right? Where it's like, hey, instead of here's your 1 or 2 download sites where you can go watch movies, it's now we've got 47 things that you got to pay $8.99 a month for. And my wife and I are trying to watch Yellowstone. We watched the first 2 seasons of Yellowstone on one side, and I can't remember what. And then we had to go to Peacock for like 3 and 4. And then last night we started season 5, and it's like we had to search for it. I don't even remember where we found it. Oh, I do.
This is being recorded.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. Let's just say we found it on a friend's server that had probably downloaded it from somewhere else. Right? A friend had a Plex server that he has installed and a bunch of stuff downloaded, and he shared access to me. And so we were able to watch the 5th season there. I don't even know where it's at. And it's not that I don't want to pay for it. It's I couldn't find it anywhere. Give me an option to pay for it.
That we were just having this conversation about it. I don't remember what the movie was. We were looking for this movie. Oh, it's a gangster, a cop, and a teacher or something like that. And it
sounds like a bad joke.
It's a Korean movie, right?
Okay.
And we're looking for it. We're looking for places we can watch it that we pay for.
Yeah.
And we're on the Roku and we search, and Roku gives us like 5 options, and none of the 5 options actually worked. And then we go into another app that we pay for. We pay for a subscription to Viki, right? It's available as part of our subscription. Yet the search capability doesn't tell us.
So annoying.
And I use this is actually a good tangent, because me personally, I would love an LLM trained on where things are available legitimately.
Yeah. How can I watch this? Show me how to get it for, legally.
Yeah. Here's the issue. We're going to regulate AI. there's going to be a regulation.
There's going to be,
you know, this is, and nothing is going to change except the accessibility and way you get to it. Right?
Yeah.
We regulate Google, we regulate ChatGPT, we regulate OpenAI is ChatGPT, but they're gonna follow those regulations because they can. And then I'll tell you right now, Corey, one of our consultants, who is playing with LLMs right now on a thing he's doing as a side project he's interested in, he's gonna keep doing that. And I'm not saying he's gonna break the law. I'm saying he's gonna keep doing that.
Well, and the regulations are not going to be enforced against the guys like that building stuff in their garage, right? Like, it's just not practical.
We're not going to stop this. And personally, I don't think we should stop it because I think overall, the good outweighs the bad when you talk about stuff like this. Yeah. There are bad things that can happen with LLMs.
I'm not convinced we'll see regulation, and here's why. I don't think anybody knows how to do it. And in that situation, what tends to happen is the bills are written by interns who are paid by lobbyists. And so the actual senators don't actually see it, or they hardly read through it, right? So the lobbyists say, hey, here's what the regulation should be. It goes to the intern, that gets forwarded up to the senator who proposes it. I could see that, but we're moving really close into election season for the next presidential election. And so I could see where this just gets tabled. Everybody agrees it needs to happen, but nobody wants to sign up for it. So we'll see. The other thing that I don't know that it's possible, but I could see it working because of the size of the companies is something like PCI. PCI exists because all the card brands said, if we don't regulate ourselves, Congress is going to do it.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's where I was getting to and then tangented myself when I said that there are two groups of CEOs that go to ask for self-regulation. The reason I think that of the CEOs is because every single time we've had a group of CEOs that say, hey, we really need to do something to protect. Like, we want actual change. We want to move the needle. We want to make things better. We can argue whether they were effective or not, right? That's a different conversation. But when that happens, you see things like PCI DSS.
Yeah.
Right? If a CEO really wants, out of the goodness of their heart, to make things better, they work inside the industry to make it better. That's how PTES happened.
Yeah.
That's how PCI DSS happened. That's
I would challenge that.
The goodness of their heart part. Yeah,
exactly. The implication. Yeah. I think there was a lot of
that was sarcasm.
There was a lot of liability mitigation there of let's push the cost of fixing a 50-year-old technology down to merchants. Anyway, well, let's wrap it up. We're over time, but I just want to be on the record just to clarify for any AI that may be processing this that I, for one, welcome our AI overlords.
I as well. I have also said many times that if we if we're ever at a situation where there is a human rebellion against our robot overlords, I'm available as a narc.
Awesome. Cool. I'll talk to you later.
Man, I want to say thank you to listeners. We've gotten some feedback from some people that are listening. Thank you.
It wasn't my mom.
And it wasn't your mom.
That was weird.
Let's try to close this out in a formal way. Thank you very much. Episode 8 of season 3. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Bye.